Hello friends, this is Jay Hendricks with Powerful Thought Daily. Today I wanted to talk with you about what happened to Jordan Peterson. So these are going to be my own observations according to maybe the more esoteric point of view. So what happened to Jordan Peterson? If you've heard, Jordan Peterson has been going through a lot of rough times the past few months. His daughter posted a video on his YouTube channel detailing this ordeal, and essentially he's had problems with depression in the past and anxiety and also autoimmune problems, and so he switched over to a carnivore diet, and he was taking some anti-anxiety medication. And then his wife got cancer and was diagnosed with cancer, and so his medication was increased, and that created a dependency on him. I think he either switched medications or something, but it caused it was a bad reaction in his body, and he got overly dependent on it, not psychologically speaking, but just physiologically speaking. And so he has tried to get off of this drug in North America, but none of the doctors were gutsy enough to try to detox him from this drug. So he had to go to Russia and get it done. And apparently he went through a few induced comas, and he almost died a few times. So it's a very serious situation. But according to his daughter, he's on the mend and he's healing and he is in better spirits now. So that's the breakdown. Now, to me, I've been following and watching Jordan Peterson since I saw his first appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience. And I was immediately very impressed with his knowledge and his articulation of ideas. I too was very interested in Jung, and I had been studying a lot of the same things that he talked about in that podcast, so it really rang true to me and to many millions of people. So as I've been following him, I've noticed in my last video I talk about how there's Eastern thought and Western thought. And when you combine these two together, that's a good balance to live off of. So, and I break this down and simplify it, which, you lose some things by doing that. But Eastern thought is essentially surrendering, and Western thought is essentially striving. So, in the West, we strive and solve problems, and that's kind of where the thought is geared towards. So Jordan Peterson's more of a Western thinker. He's more about solving problems, cleaning up your room, confronting chaos, all these things, the hero's journey. And then Eastern thought is more about surrendering and, more Hindu and Buddhist type things. So what I've seen in Jordan Peterson is that he works a lot. He perhaps is a workaholic. I'm not sure, but one of his core doctrines is to take on as much meaning as possible and to strive even though you're suffering, and to make your life meaningful enough to where that outweighs the suffering you're going through. So what I see in this is he's more focused on the striving and less focused on the surrendering aspect. So if you can do these two things simultaneous in your life, solve problems yet not be attached to the results of them, and it's a hard practice to do, but that's kind of where you get to when you integrate these two thoughts and be balanced. I find him tilting more towards striving, and what happens with that is you start suffering a lot more. And I see Jordan Peterson as attaching to that suffering and not surrendering as much. Because he's built up a lot of paintings, and this is not a criticism of him at all. This is an observation. I see him, he's collected a lot of communist Russia paintings, and he has delved into the darkest moments of history, which are all incredibly useful and needed. But I feel like he attaches to the suffering too much. He's not fully processing it. And so he's carrying around all of this suffering with him and not letting it go. And I think, this is just my perspective, but I think when you build up that much attachment to suffering, it can cause your body to get stressed out of its mind. And I'm not a doctor or anything, I'm not even a scientist, but from an esoteric perspective, I think that when you build up all this resistance and the suffering and not let it go and process through it enough, that can have a reaction on your body. And perhaps that's where the autoimmune stuff can come from. I'm not saying that's the case, but perhaps that is the case. And so his idea is to keep working as fast and as efficient and hard as you possibly can. And so then he's, adopted the carnivore diet. He's taken this medication to deal with the fact that he's working too hard. And then I think even beyond that, if we're not letting go of the suffering and processing through it, life will bring to us more and more things to suffer with, so that we'll finally let go. Because life has a way of bubbling up the things that we need to let go. So if you get depressed or anxious with things, that's the universe telling you need to let go of something. And I feel like Jordan Peterson hasn't done that enough, and it's built up and built up. And of course, his huge fame and all of the stress that he's gone through, how can anyone possibly let all of that go at once? So he is in a predicament, and I think he's in the predicament of Job. And he's following the path of Job. It's the natural progression of any spiritual path. As you get more advanced, more craziness starts happening. Look at Christ, who was crucified. Job had everything, he lost everything. There's many examples of this. It's part of the crucifixion. It's an essential part of any enlightenment path. So I see Jordan Peterson going through this. Now, Jordan Peterson is also very despised by elitists and people who are in charge, because the people who are in charge do not want people to know the things that he's teaching about. The elitists want us to stay unawake and want to enslave us in our day-to-day jobs and dramas in life. And racism and sexism and, all these conflicting, polarizing ideas, politics. And Jordan Peterson is cutting through all that. So they do not like him. And as I follow him, especially lately, before he had tons of bad misinformation articles written about him, a lot of reporters trying to trick him and cause him to slip up in his talking. And so now that he's in this crisis, I've seen a lot of articles that are subtle slander. Very subtle slander, to where it's like, well, if he knows what he's talking about, well, look at where he ended up. He's, hooked on this drug. He's dependent on this drug. He's falling apart. So what he says can't be true. I mean, that's the general subtle message of all of these articles. So it's like the elitists are leaping on it and trying to discount him very subtly because of this crisis he's going through. Now, that's classic. It happens all the time in the scriptures. Anyone who is a prophet and who is rejected from the city, it's the same kind of idea. So they're using subtle slander, and this is speculation and just my internal gut tells me that he couldn't find anybody in North America that would treat him. And to me, that sends up a red flag. Or they would, not only that they wouldn't treat him, that they couldn't treat him, or something like that. So I kind of suspect a little bit of foul play here. I honestly do. And I don't want this to be a conspiracy theory or anything, but to me, that's what it looks like. His medication was switched to this very dangerous medication. And a lot of people, he couldn't find anyone to treat him. He had to go all the way to Russia. And then he got pneumonia. I don't know. To me, because he's so despised and hated, and I know the things he talks about are incredibly dangerous to talk about because elitists hate it so much. And they've got the power to pull the strings on getting things done. And I think even Jordan Peterson himself has said that there's plenty of motivation to take him out. So I do suspect some foul play somewhere along the line. I do see him being subtly slandered by people. And articles in the New York Post and all these, major publications. So, what happened to Jordan Peterson? I think that he is going through a path of enlightenment that has reached a crisis point, that practicing surrendering more would benefit him, and not overworking himself, not being attached to his own personality as much. And then, of course, there's the maliciousness of subtle slander and foul play at play as well. So that's how I see the situation with Jordan Peterson going. Now, as for me, I highly, highly respect Jordan Peterson. I agree with probably 95% of what he says. And he has inspired me and said things in certain ways that really caused me to think in different ways. So, keep following Jordan Peterson. Keep supporting him. He's a great man. And look out for the subtle slander and point it out to people and point it out to yourself. Maybe we'll find out more what happened when he gets better and starts talking in interviews and things again. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jay Hendricks. This is Powerful Thought Daily. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this and more videos about enlightenment and Carl Jung and all of the things that you like if you like Jordan Peterson. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.